All right, now to an update on a Yakima-based anti-farm activist group called We Are Aya. It's spelled Ella, ELLA, but pronounced We Are Aya. Now, according to the Washington Department of Health, the group lied to their agency after getting $500,000, a grant from Climate Commitment Act money. They got about $500,000. And DOH says the group then lied to them about using their Department of Health logo to fabricate the appearance of that agency's endorsement in the materials they were producing. And they made some videos that came out with some accusations against Lower Yakima Valley farms. And it was Save Family Farming, the group that originally complained after seeing the DOH endorsement on some of the materials that were being produced. They went to DOH and said, "Do you realize they're using your logo?" It took many, many months to get any response from the Department of Health. But then DOH eventually said, after a whole lot of pressure from Safe Family Farming and some lawmakers that got involved and started asking questions, they said, "Oh, we've got confirmation now that We Are AI is no longer using our Department of Health logo and that any of the materials that they produced, social media posts, those have all been removed." And that's what they told Save Family Farming. That was not the case at all. So this is Save Family Farming's executive director, Ben Tyndall, who told me in an interview yesterday that the DOH logo is still very much on some of those videos online. And DOH is now admitting, yeah, well, we never actually checked ourselves. We just kind of trusted when We Are AS said, yeah, we're going to take that stuff down.
I in my head, I have the I guess critics or pushback. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. These are a couple social media videos. These are small things. And my response is, you're right. This is a very small thing that, should have taken a handful of minutes to correct, to adjust, but it's kind of the tip of the iceberg that it looks small compared to what is laying underneath this lack of accountability the state has to the grantees who are receiving hundreds of thousands of yours and my dollars that we are putting in whenever we go to, fuel our cars up or a variety of reasons. And as well as you're taking the grantee's word for it. And this just shows this particular organization, We Are AIA, not only do they put out false anti-farming propaganda that is not scientifically backed, it is very manipulated, it is very much twisted, and their messaging is incorrect and presenting a very false image of farming in our state, as well as they're not only willing to manipulate and deceive the public like you and I, they're also going to directly lie to a state agency. That the Department of Health in writing says we were basing the fact that this has been corrected because we heard either verbally or by email the grantee confirmed not that they were going to deal with this, but that it had been corrected. That they were told, the Department of Health was told, yes, this has been corrected, which was patently false.
Now, Save Family Farming informed the Department of Health on July 16th, so just last week, that they had filed a complaint with the Washington State Auditor's Office and then got some state lawmakers involved. And then DOH did finally respond and admitted basically, yeah, so here's what happened. We didn't actually check for ourselves. We just took their word that the materials were down. Um, didn't explain why they didn't check for themselves. But remember, this is a $500,000 in CCA money. So your tax dollars, when you go to fill up at the gas pump and you've got other places that you get hit by the CCA Climate Commitment Act taxes. So taxpayer dollars provided to an activist organization that then used some of that to produce anti-farming materials that Safe Family Farming says were outright lies in many cases. Um, and then they put the Department of Health endorsement logo across those materials, which certainly made it look like what they were producing was endorsed by the Department of Health, the Washington State Department of Health, and that was not the case. And then, of course, the state agency responsible who gave them that money, your tax dollars, um, then, was not able to follow through and ensure that their logo was off the materials, even though it was brought to their attention. And Safe Family Farming kept saying over and over again, you got to do something about this.
We are seeing record numbers of CCA funding that is going to the state for various, levels of climate or social justice type of actions. Who's holding them accountable? Who is holding and kind of keeping that money accountable? And we're seeing that that is really a there's a lot of behind the scenes work going on. There's a lot of things that really aren't being very transparent. And so we're using this as a tool to show we need to see accountability. We need to see accountability with these nonprofit organizations that are benefiting. We're also needing to desperately see accountability with these agencies that are supposed to be, funding and kind of facilitating the logistics of these. And so we're working with legislators. We're letting certain legislators know. Like I said, we're sharing this information with the various legislative caucuses in the state, trying to generate some interest to see, something needs to be done. Who is the legislative champion that's willing to step up and say, okay, enough's enough. We've got to start reining this in. We've got to hold some things accountable. We've got to see transparency in ways that we haven't seen yet. Because this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is one example that we're using to really showcase and highlight what we think is more of kind of an epidemic problem with the state right now.
I did reach out to the Department of Health and several of their media contacts and told them that I was producing the article today and that I had interviewed Save Family Farming and I wanted to get the Department of Health's response. No one responded, but I have seen the confirmation from the Department of Health sent to Save Family Farming that basically said, "Yeah, we just took their word for it, and but we're sure that stuff's down now." Well, as of yesterday, as I mentioned, it still wasn't down. The materials, that have the DOH logo are still very much in circulation. So that is, that's something that the Department of Health is gonna have to answer to. And I am putting up an article on the Center Square Washington's page today, so I encourage you to check that out with a lot, more of a deeper dive on this whole controversy.